you so much, and welcome everybody. I'm Rachel Hutchison. I have the honor and pleasure of leading global social responsibility at Blackbaud, which was, just for the record, founded in 1980, so we're 40-ish years old. I've been there for 30 years, so I kind of feel like I'm a legacy brand. We're here to talk about purpose, as we have been all day, but purpose's connection to ESG and sustainability, and how when you make that connection, although it can be really challenging for the business, it also can create a lot of opportunities to innovate. And I'm in a tech company. Innovation, is what we think about every day. We have some very, very, very long-standing brands. So we want to talk about what purpose means to you and what's happening on innovation on your journey. So you've already been introduced to Gina, Jeffrey, and Chris. We have a very short amount of time, so I'm not going to waste time doing more introductions. I'm just going to jump in and ask each one of you to first ground us each in what purpose means to each of your brands. So Chris, would you start?
Sure, happy to. And I think the end of the day, especially as you link purpose to ESG and sustainability work, to me and to us as a company, as you said, we're a 100-plus-year-old apparel manufacturer, and really different in the apparel space in that we own the vast majority of our own manufacturing capacity. We own the brick and mortar. There are people, there are production facilities. And so sustainability and managing large groups of people in a big supply chain is definitely not new to us. We've been doing it for decades. And when we were developing, we've got a fairly new leadership team who was helping to redefine purpose for us, and some of my colleagues that sit in other parts of the organization, especially the communications team, the corporate affairs team, who was charged directly with putting that purpose statement together, actually worked directly with me. I worked hand in hand with them, coming from it, from a really long history of focusing on ESG and sustainability and how important that is to the entire organization's purpose. And in fact, they actually grabbed some of what we started to use even 4 or 5 years ago. And our stated purpose now is making the world a more comfortable place for everybody being 2 different words. And obviously a ton loaded into that one 6 or 7 word statement. But at the end of the day, we see the overall company's purpose and the purpose that we're trying to drive from an ESG and sustainability perspective really is one and the same. And I do think that that's fairly new in thinking from what it used to be. And those that can drive this work into the core of what your company is trying to do from a bigger, broader perspective, I think the more successful you're going to be in driving your sustainability and ESG initiatives.
So Jeffrey, you referred to your company on our prep call as being thought of as staid, and you said something interesting about the way things were versus how they can be. So share a little with us.
Yeah, so we're a company you probably haven't heard about. It's a B2B company that serves people who are doing scientific research. When we think about 354 years of history, there's a lot of opportunity to just continue to do things the way that you are, especially when you've withstood so many changes in the world. And thinking about that, one of the things that is harder at times for our company to navigate through is how do you embrace things that are different, that make you uncomfortable, that don't necessarily have a very clear roadmap. So we're a German headquartered company. So if I have any German friends in the room, process seems to be a very appreciated component in German life. I lived there for 3.5 years myself, so I take this from personal experience. But one of the things is getting people to expand out beyond what they know what's right in front of them. Mm-hmm. And what we have really tried to do within our team as part of the business is to make that path easier, to start thinking ahead of some of the challenges that may get raised and walk people through that discomfort and then use the pathways, the successes that we've had as pathways for success for the future and expanding it. And I think for us, that's been a really successful model in branching into places where people are like, ooh, I don't really know about that. But it is what has happened to expand and really multiply the impacts of what we've been able to do.
Yeah. So Gina, you have an amazingly interesting title, regenerative agriculture. That's so interesting. So you're in a newer business, but you are a part of a family brand that's a much older business. So tell us what Purpose is from your perspective.
Okay, great. Yeah. So my title is Vice President of Mission and Regenerative Agriculture. So I think that basically says it all, right? Applegate is a natural, organic, and now regenerative meat company. So if you don't know what regenerative agriculture is, it's a holistic system of farming that's focused on soil health, building soil health. So it improves biodiversity, draws down carbon into the soil, improves the water holding capacity of the soil and the overall ecosystem. So animals, livestock are one of the most effective tools we have for sequestering carbon into the soil and regenerating it. So as a meat company, that's very important, and that mission is very important. We like to say it's not the cow, it's the how. So, so in 2000, well, let me just start from the beginning, from the outset. Applegate has been a mission-based company, and that is inextricably tied to our business strategy and our business goals. They're one and the same. I sit on the senior leadership team, and I inform the business strategy. So in 2015, we were acquired by Hormel Foods, and I just think this has been the most amazing relationship and partnership. I am, as you can tell, insanely passionate about regenerative agriculture, and Hormel Foods has helped us really accelerate that mission. So to give you a perfect example, this year we launched, just a few months ago, we launched our first regenerative product. It's a hot dog made with beef raised on regenerative ranches in North Carolina and in California. And it's called the Do Good Dog. It's a hot dog. And obviously for Applegate, Whole Foods is our #1 customer, and it was natural that we would distribute it in Whole Foods, but it was Hormel that really, through their relationship with Walmart, was able to facilitate a relationship there. They have distributed this product in 1,000 or more Walmart stores. So to me, taking something like regenerative agriculture from a niche concept to mainstream has been extraordinary, and that's really, the essence of this partnership, just really amplifying our mission. I'm obviously in charge of the strategy at Applegate for regenerative ag, but now I've been asked to design the regenerative strategy for the entire Hormel enterprise, and regenerative ag is one of their 20 by 30 goals. So I'm just very honored and happy to be able to do that. And just, like I said, I cannot say enough about this, new company, forging together with a legacy company, and the benefits and opportunity that can bring.
And we're going to talk a little bit later about this next gen coming into the workplace, but I have a 22-year-old who just got out of college, majored in business, minored in sustainability. He's looking for his job in sustainability. We talk about like how much water it takes to grow an almond. We talk about fast fashion, like the things that they do care. So we are going to get back to that. Jeffrey, you had an example of a $20 million investment that you made. Would you like to share that? And then I'd love to have a quick follow-up for you guys to weigh in on.
Yeah, I was talking about scary new things. So just recently, we announced a $20 million investment with a platform called C-Note. I happened to be taking a walk and listening to a podcast and heard Kat Berman, who's the CEO of C-Note, talk about this initiative. And I sat back and I was like, I think I could actually do that. Because when you talk about $20 million, and our business is an $11 billion company, that's kind of not a lot, but it's also a lot. And the interesting part about this is it's not a donation. It is reallocating money that you have sitting from accounts receivable at big banks and putting it into CDFIs to increase capital for those who are underbanked. And this is one of those examples about how we worked with, treasury, risk, finance, to get them on board to understand this is another tangible way which we can show action to not only our employee base, the communities in which we work in, tangible commitments to how we are moving forward on this ESG journey, how we take D&I commitments and make them actionable. And I think for us, that was built on another successful partnership that we had about a VPPA and bringing 68 megawatts of renewable electricity to the grid to help power our business in the US. If we had not had that, we wouldn't have had a different model to take our finance and risk teams through. And once we were able to do that, they were like, you people aren't crazy. There could be something here. And then we got there in a much quicker fashion. So something that probably would have taken several years in our organization took a matter of probably, I think, 4 months, which for me, at a 350-year-old company is, can I get a medal for it?
Yeah. So when we were prepping, Jeffrey raised a question. I'm actually going to ask Chris you to respond to this first. You asked, why is it so important that these brands, these legacy brands, are doing this? Like, what's that mean to the world?
A couple of different things. One, in fact, just as you were chatting, it was bouncing around in my head. The big challenge here, especially with I think some of the older legacy brands and quite frankly the bigger, especially global companies like ours, is the ability to bring these ideas, and you were describing it, Gina, right, to scale. How do you go from Whole Foods to Walmart, right? And the ability for companies like ours who have believed that these issues are extremely important to fundamentally running a good business for decades. I mean, that's kind of the backbone of our history. But be able to take these ideas, both in just how to run a business and down to a product level, like your product, and drive them at real scale. I think that is the big challenge for a lot of us here. Lots and lots of great ideas and niche ideas, but how do you really pull them together? How do you scale them so that they really and truly do have meaningful impact at the end of the day? And I think that's what companies like ours can bring to the table.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Why is it so important that big brands? I have more questions. We can just jump to the next one.
Fine, but I totally agree with you. It's like the scale, you can make transformational change. There was a lot of talk here about procurement strategies. And if you think about it, procuring regenerative ingredients or supply, it might, there's not a lot of supply out there, and it could be very, very, very small in relation to the size of the companies in this room. But what's small and insignificant to you is transformational to farmers, raising food this way.
Yep.
So I think that's something to just take into consideration.
So I mentioned I have a 22-year-old. I also have a 24-year-old who is resettling refugees. It's like they're like the two halves of me, like the love for the nonprofit world and the love for the sustainable world. And they really care about this world. I mean, we have all sorts of conversations. So they're of the age of people who are walking into your workplaces. So if we had a 23-year-old employee from each of your brands sitting here, how would they say you're doing on connecting purpose to the experience that they have in your brand?
I'd say the people that work at Applegate would be saying we're doing a fantastic job. I feel like every one of them is passionate about the work that we do. We make the experience real for our employees, bringing in ranchers that are doing this kind of work and talking about the positive work that they're doing and how they're regenerating the soil. One of the great stories out of this whole thing was a rancher in Northern California was able to fatten his beef cattle on 8 inches of rainfall. That's unbelievable, but when you consider that this, building soil health does exactly that. It's not that we think that there are, the problem is drought. The problem is that when it rains, the soil can't hold the water. But when you regenerate it and it's healthy and it's able to hold water and grow perennial grass like that, I mean, that's amazing. That's a real solution. And our employees feel fantastic about being a part of that. And I like the idea, too, of bringing, these stories to the broader enterprise at Hormel, and I've been given that platform to tell
do
those
that.
stories.
So Jeffrey?
I think for me, it is really about employees being able to see the action happening, for them to be able to identify and understand that these are not just words. I think someone earlier said, it's not a poster, as you go into the bathroom, but that there are really tangible actions where they can see commitments that are meaningful, that are helping drive forward what we say we want to accomplish. And if our employees are able to point out those things, if they can get involved with them, part of my responsibility is our community engagement platform. I spent a good part of the morning listening and commenting on people's LinkedIn post about the Curiosity Cube and volunteering with it. It's a mobile science lab that is a shipping container turned into mobile science lab.
Awesome.
And the response to see that, which trends younger, it's fantastic that our company gives us this opportunity to do this. And I think that's at the end of the day when the rubber meets the road. If people can identify what you are doing as a company and they can vocalize it and they see it, that is the stickiest thing that you can offer any 23-year-old coming into your doors.
Yep. Chris?
Hey, we've done tons of, as most CPG companies have, right, of consumer research. And whether it's a consumer or a young employee, does that consumer in 20-something care about these issues? Absolutely they do. And you've got to, I think, on the same lines of engaging your employee, be able to talk to your consumer. But I've got kids about your age as well, mid-20s. They ain't going to work for a company whose purpose they don't believe in. Those days are over. And so focusing on it publicly from an internal perspective, and I think focusing publicly on a pure external perspective, to engage both that young employee to buy into why they are getting out of bed every morning and why they are driving a bigger purpose than just what they're doing on a day in, day out basis is how you're going to keep young people engaged and keep them part of your organization. And also, in our case, reach a consumer that really and truly cares.
So for our last question, we've been talking about a lot of concepts all day, but I'd love to just be super practical. If you could give one really, really practical piece of advice to the people in the room, and not everybody is with a big brand, what would it be? Gina?
Yep. The key to transformational change is to out-collaborate the competition. So that means working with maybe competitors, other industries, startups, whatever. One of the biggest collaborations that came out of this Do Good Dog was we are selling all of the hides from our beef supply to Timberland for their regenerative boots. So food and fashion collaborating at the farm level.
Very cool.
That's cool. Jeffrey?
I think for me is that you don't have to recreate the wheel. How many ideas have we heard about today? And then what is the opportunity for you to cherry pick the things that you can make relevant for your organization, that you can figure out how you fit within that topic, but what your specific angle and take on it is. I think a majority of us, we love to share what we're doing because we love our work. It is in that spirit of collaboration, but I think there is just so many opportunities to figure out what's the correct lens for what you're doing. So, don't think you've got to come up with this brand spanking new idea, but how can you take these things, learn from them, and apply for what makes sense for your business?
And Chris, you have the last word.
I got the last word, huh? I think, hey, from a corporate perspective, from our own individual perspectives, and what we see as our own individual purpose in life, it better be genuine and it better be real. If it's not, people will see through it in a nanosecond. And what the right purpose is for my organization may be very different from yours and yours, and making sure you're very thoughtful about what is truly meaningful to what you do for a living as a company, and make sure that it is real and very genuine.
Well, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, Chris, Jeffrey, and Gina, for joining us.
Thank you.